So me and the man were sitting around the big parlor room. Me and the man ain't been hanging out as much as we used to because the man's been having a lot of dry out cycles. Once he gets dried out, he engages in business a little bit more. He tries to go golf a little bit more. It seems like he asks more women out, although he probably gets less yeses. When he's buzzed, I think he's a little bit more of a natural. He's a little bit more what you would say savoir-faire. But he just stays busier. And so we don't get in the big parlor room because the big parlor room is where he likes to sit and sip his bourbon. But it's just like old times, and it feels good to hang out with the man a little bit. And lo and behold, once you know, we found an old Johnny Depp movie. Johnny's probably about, like a 35-year-old. He's playing the part of like a 24-year-old punk. And the whole movie pretty much takes place on this dock down in Marathon Key. Now, this one single dock, it's kind of eerie because usually the water and there down the Florida Key lagoons, it's like about 7, 8, 10 feet deep, and you can see crystal clear to the bottom. You know what I'm saying? You can see all the fish going around, some whatever. Every once in a while, I see a little 4 or 5 foot shark swimming around. It's beautiful. But in this case, the water is deep. Right off the end of the dock, the water is deep and murky, and it's green. And Johnny, he's just sitting there in like a lounge chair, soaking up the rays. And up comes this kind of a weirdo guy, and I wish I could describe him. He looks like he's a little bit more groomed version of Yosemite Sam. He doesn't really have the big handlebar mustache, and his hair's a little bit more ratty and less red, but he just strikes me. He's got big sideburns. He's got a big mop of hair. He's got a big bushy mustache. He strikes me a little bit like a taller, lankier, more, whatever you say, caveman-esque, whatever you would say there. Yippity Sam or whatever that character was, Yosemite. So anyways, in the movie Yosemite, he takes off all his clothes except for this raunchy looking pair of jean shorts. They're like faded, they're disgusting. They're more like a brownish color than a bluish color. And anyway, he jumps down straight in the water. And Johnny, he kind of looks over the edge of the pier, and he's like wondering, when's this guy going to pop back up? And there's a few air bubbles, but there's not too much else. And Johnny starts thinking to himself, damn, this guy, I don't know if I could save him. How could I save him? I'm not a good swimmer. This water's kind of murky, And all of a sudden, this guy, he pops back up out of the water. He climbs back up the ladder, and so Johnny Depp, he says, hey, why don't you have a Schaefer? He's drinking 12-ounce cans of Schaefer. The funny thing is, Johnny's got a Schlitz hat on as like a sun visor, so it's kind of strange. But there's just this eerie quality to the whole thing. And I kind of was dozing in and out, and so I wasn't listening to too much of the dialogue. But the movie, it just never really seems to leave that pier. That pier is probably about, 15, maybe 12 feet above the water level. So the next day, Johnny's sitting out there, he's sunbathing in his Schlitz hat, he's pounding down a couple Schaefers, and this guy comes up and they talk a little bit, and so this guy, he dives head first in the water again, and this time Johnny's waiting for him to pop up, and it's even more strange and eerie. The guy's not coming up, you know what I'm saying? There's a few bubbles, and Johnny's thinking, do I dive in there? Should I get down in there and try to save him? Johnny's like, I can't save this guy. I'm afraid to go down in that deep water if there was nobody drowning. Now that there's somebody drowning, it's even more eerie, and, it's just too much for me. But Johnny started feeling like he was a puss. Johnny was feeling like he should jump in there and try to save this guy, but something was keeping Johnny from doing it. And Johnny was feeling more and more demeaned by himself. He was feeling more and more ashamed of himself, and he was almost getting ready to jump in there peg style. He wasn't going to dive in, where all of a sudden this guy comes shooting up out of the water, almost back up onto the top of the pier. He was wild-eyed. He jumped up and wagged his feet. He looked like a freaking dolphin down there at SeaWorld. All right, this guy jumped fully out of the water. His feet were about 6-7 feet above the surface of the water. Johnny was like, holy shit, what in the hell? And the guy, he falls back in the water. He climbs back up the ladder. And Johnny's saying, God bless, this guy's a piece of work. You know what I'm saying? I mean, God almighty, this guy, is he part dolphin? What's the deal with this guy? Well, how come this guy is in this freaky deaky situation? Plus, when he popped up out of the water, he hovered for like a half a second, and he stared right into Johnny's eyes with these black shark eyes. It was really eerie. And Johnny, who had been questioning in his manhood and his whole, his whole dedication to humanity, and he was a little bit shameful about why, he didn't jump in there and try to save that guy. Well, he kind of says something to the guy about it, or the guy could kind of tell, and he says to Johnny, don't worry about it, don't worry, that's all right. I know it's a little murky, and that water's a little deep, and it's a little cold. So he jumps in the water. He doesn't stay down there too long. He pops back up, and he climbs about almost all the way up the ladder. And Johnny's just casually talking to him. And Johnny's feeling a little bit better about himself. Johnny's trying to ignore the fact that he acted cowardly and shamefully. And he's just kind of almost like it's a nightmare. Sooner or later, it wears off. All of a sudden, this guy reaches up. He grabs hold of Johnny, and he pulls Johnny down into the water. Johnny falls about 12 feet or so into the water. And before Johnny realizes what the F is going on, this guy's got him all wrapped up in his arms and his legs. And he's sinking Johnny straight down the water. Johnny's like, holy crap, I didn't even get a big breath. And he's wondering, should I fight this guy? And Johnny was so scared in the movie. Johnny was so petrified, he froze like a little bunny rabbit about to be eaten by a fox, where he knows this is just it. He might as well just give in. The more he struggles, the more horrific it will be. And as Johnny's drifting down to the bottom of this lagoon, wrapped up in this weirdo half-dolphin man's arms and his legs, Johnny's thinking to himself, I wonder how long I got left, until the searing pain makes me start gulping water and I start panicking, acting like a spaz. But Johnny was just curled up in that guy's arms, just kind of, just wondering what the hell was going on. Just so scared. He was hot and like electricity shooting up and down his spine, and just frozen with abject terror. And that's what he was thinking as the movie faded to black, and you don't know if Johnny's going to survive or what's going to happen. Is this going to release him? Johnny's thinking the whole time, I pray this guy's going to release me, because I got no fight in me. I'm not going to be able to fight my way out of this thing. And Johnny was thinking that this guy was, possibly going to release him. Maybe he's just trying to teach Johnny a lesson. Maybe he's trying to help Johnny conquer his fears. But the movie never really explains it, and it just fades to black. It was really eerie and screwed up. And I don't know why anybody would even make such a movie. I've never heard of this movie. I don't think Johnny got paid too much for this movie. I don't think this movie had too many what you call revenues, too many ticket sales. But basically, it was just another case of a really eerie, strange, wackadoo Johnny Depp movie. Leave it to Johnny Depp, you know what I'm saying?